Okay, and we are live. Hello, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, depending where you're joining us from. Thank you for being here for this webinar, which is brought to you by Levata and Ericsson. We're here today to discuss Logistics 4.0 and the trends that are driving private 4G and 5G in the warehouse sector. My name is James Blackman. I'm an editor with RCR Wireless. I'm here really to top and tail this session, do the intros and outros, and maybe pick up a few questions in between. I should warn I've got a cold. I'm not feeling great, so apologies if there's some sneezing and such from me. But it's not my session. I will turn off my camera shortly. Just some housekeeping before we begin. This session is being recorded, and the recording will be available on demand to registrants later today. The slide presentation will also be available after the event. We will have time to take some questions. I'd encourage you to submit those at any time using the Q&A dialog box in the platform. We will go through them after the presentation towards the end. And that is really it from me for now. We have about 45 minutes on the clock, I believe, and I'd like to introduce your presenters today. Jan Diekman, who is Global Vertical Manufacturing Lead at Ericsson, and Jose Perez, who is Director of IT Infrastructure Services at Levata. So both welcome. Thanks for joining us. Perhaps you can introduce yourselves, say a few words about your companies. I'll turn off my camera and catch you at the end. But Jan, Jose, take it away. The floor is yours.
Thank you, James. Then I take it first here. As James introduced me already, I'm with Ericsson. To be more specific, I'm with Ericsson Enterprise Wireless Solutions. So we're looking specifically at 4G and 5G, as well as wireless WAN and security solutions for enterprises and industrial sites. I'm looking at mainly manufacturing, but of course also the inbound and outbound and intralogistics and warehousing, which is adjacent to a manufacturing site. Jose, over to you.
Good day, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. It's a privilege to be here with Ericsson to talk about the real world value of 4G and 5G in the modern logistics. I'm Jose Perez, Director of IT Infrastructure Services at Levata. Levata is a world leader in mobility and networking across many platforms. My team specifically, similar to what John just said, is responsible for the design, engineering, installation, and implementation of wired, wireless networks, RFID, and large-scale warehousing, manufacturing, and campus environments. This does include the robotics and automation space as well. We understand the challenges in real time and are excited to partner with Ericsson, showcasing their technologies in these distinct areas. At Levata, we specialize in designing and deploying the infrastructure that makes innovation work. We're here to offer our services, and are once again excited here to be with Ericsson to dive into this 4 or 5G technology within our industry. Thank you.
My pleasure, Jose. And then I would say, here we go. Let's look at, let's have a quick glimpse at the challenges that the logistics and warehousing industry in special are facing. And I think shorter lead times is something that has been around since a number of years and has been driven by the new kids on the block, of course, that give the promise of having deliveries been made within a day or even less. So warehouses and warehouse managers need to adhere to that and cope with that challenge. Then, of course, warehousing is always dealing with limited space. So it's all about optimization of that space, and that goes along with improving the storage systems and getting to a more efficient and efficiency increase in the storage area.
Jan, sorry, I'm just going to interrupt. I think the slides have stopped. You stop the slide share.
Oops.
Are you okay? Can you pick that up again, or shall I?
I pick it up again, and here we go. Don't know why that happened.
Don't
But
worry, it's
go again.
perfect. Well done. That's great.
Excellent. So continuing here, I talked about the lead time challenge and the space optimization challenge. And then, of course, the demand or the consumer behavior has changed, and the handling of returned goods has become a massive item within the warehousing and logistics space. So there is a higher demand volatility compared to a couple of years ago. So and here we see that the accuracy of having a real-time view on the inventory, for instance, is becoming more and more a key to reduce cost and optimize operations. Last but not least, there are, not in all countries, but in many countries, it is more difficult to find the right and retain the right talent and get innovative ways of supporting workers. Young people potentially don't want to work in a place which is completely analog. They want to be on the digital edge at their workplace. And I think these four challenges are not fully exhaustive, but are depicting the major constraints and tasks that logistics have to work on. Jose, do you want to add something here, or shall we jump to the next one?
I think I'd like to add the part. We understand the importance of getting product to the shelf at the end of the day. The need from receiving items into a warehouse and getting them out as quick as possible to get them on the shelf for the consumer. And this technology was breaching a lot of those spaces that there may be some gaps in, and we'll touch a little bit more on that later. But we understand that challenge of getting inventory in, have it accurate within your facilities, and getting it out as quick as possible against your competitors, or to make sure that you have the product on the shelves to sell.
Yeah. And I think having these challenges laid out, they are not only valid for the 3PL, 4PL warehouses, they are also valid for factory intralogistics, for instance, and then they're even affecting the production line as well. So this not overcoming or not coping with these challenges can have serious impact on many aspects. Is my presentation still there? I'm facing.
No, it went away again.
This is like a little difficult, but we're here to cope with that. Okay, so if I'm visible again, the key areas for enterprises and specifically for the enterprises within the logistics industry today, as a result, is they need to increase their flexibility. They need to cope with a larger variety of products and try to decrease inventory as much as possible. For that, they would need to really go into advanced and more automated forecasting methods. Increased accuracy, talked about that earlier. So manual cycle count for instance, for a warehouse is maybe no longer the method to do it. So it definitely requires more human and robotic or technology interaction to become more efficient here. Last but not least, all of that leading to an increased efficiency, or they need to increase their efficiency by the use of new technologies like AI and machine learning, and also be able to have a scenario optimization and decision automation that, for instance, could be done by a warehouse digital twin. I'm jumping here right to the next one. And looking at a warehouse from an IT OT perspective, which is usually more homed in the manufacturing industry, but a warehouse operations with robotics and PLCs and everything is pretty much of an OT environment. While the warehousing, inventory management, warehouse management systems, SAP, etc., are still more of an IT environment. So the merge here to break the silos and get data from different sources in order to make better decisions is definitely a valid task for the warehousing process as well. And as in every other verticals, that merge requires also a new network technology in order to enable new technologies like AI working across different data sources, different data silos to make the right decisions. And I think, Jose, that's your daily bread and butter as well.
Yeah, for sure. That's a valid point. What we're seeing real time in the industry is traditional warehousing environments that are implementing robotic systems as well as automation systems that are huge to their operations, but they're all operating on different networks, different types of environments. So bringing that together, the IT/OT, and they're going to come convergent sooner or later, but they are distinct in themselves right now. But with this technology, we can see where we can bridge that gap and bring those together.
Perfect. So having talked about network technology, I mean, everybody knows that there is a lot of wired systems out there. The problem with wires is they're expensive and timely to deploy, especially if we're talking about large warehouse structures, and they are not very flexible. Thinking about the cost and the installation time, if you need to change your warehouse layout, for instance, we've been seeing in the challenges that flexibility is one of the main pillars that warehouse managers are facing. So they need to get more flexible, and wired systems are good in some respects, but definitely not if you need a higher degree of agility and, as I also mentioned, cost saving. In the 4G era, there has been a lot of classical IoT things leveraging the public cellular networks, but bringing now cellular technology into the center of your operations as potentially a technology that helps to overcome the lack of agility of wires. The public network is not always present inside the facility. It is sort of unpredictable and uncontrollable. And of course, it comes with a constant cost on the data volume. And you would want to have that predictability and the control over where your data, where your warehouse data goes, and also make sure that you're in control of the IT infrastructure security part. Wi-Fi is a common technology that's been widely used, and it's a great technology, I must say. But Wi-Fi has a few shortcomings, especially when it comes to bringing connectivity into larger places. So Wi-Fi operates with very limited power, so it is hard to cover larger areas. It lacks the reliability of, for instance, running industrial protocols for robots over it, and it has some downsides on the mobility aspect, like if you have workers with scanners, they might freeze if they stick to one access point, not moving to another. And I think that's a challenge that Levata is also seeing. And Jose, I'll let you comment on that one.
Yeah, I actually have a real life scenario that we're going through right now is a large warehousing environment that has traditional Wi-Fi, and they're implementing a new robotic system within or automated system in a huge area of probably 200, 300,000 square feet. And that structure's already been built out. The business came back and said, well, we have people that we need to do maintenance. We have to be inside this structure. And in traditional Wi-Fi within that environment is very difficult and challenging with these structures because you can barely walk through them. There's all steel, metal. So we're seeing that this technology, the 5G technology, makes a lot more sense and is giving them the success that they need with those handheld devices, being able to be inside of these working structures. So it's very valuable and it's changing the game as far as connectivity within those environments.
Yeah, excellent. I mean, we're seeing that as well. But 5G is not only a technology that works within the warehouse. You can see it, and I don't want to go into all the different smaller use cases on that picture, but what I want to lay out here is it's a global innovation platform that can be used as a private network within the facility where maybe the public 5G network does not provide the right reach or the right KPIs. But it can also be used, the same technology can be used out in the wild, like tracking valuable goods, tracking transportation equipment, trucks, and also working on not only the indoors but also the outdoors storage facilities of a warehouse operation. So I think 5G as being the technology to connect OT operations and larger field operations makes it quite a valuable technology that is now worldwide proven. I think we have 1/3 of the worldwide subscriptions are now on 5G, if I'm not mistaken. We've been looking a bit at the so-called use cases that come along supporting the trends that we see in warehousing. And I think we can separate it here into automation with robotics, track and trace tooling and technologies, and then putting the human back in the loop, working together with robotics, the augmented worker and safety. And if we look at the first trend, eliminating coverage blind spots in order to have connectivity everywhere, we think that this basically is valid for all the applications that nowadays a modern warehouse is running to improve their operations and efficiency. And I think maybe, Jose, you can say something on scale. That's pretty important, I think.
Yeah, one of the things I think we want to make sure that's clear here that this technology plays well with traditional with Wi-Fi. This is not to take over. This is also to assist and help in those areas that there's difficult as far as traditional Wi-Fi. Outdoor large scale yards that you have big inventory that are hundreds of thousands of square feet away. Trenching out to a pole to put up a Wi-Fi access point to allow you to have those coverages, it's not cost effective. So what we're looking here is with this technology that we're able to cover those spaces. There's a use case scenario that you have fork trucks that are coming and going in and out of facilities. So traditional Wi-Fi doesn't necessarily work in that environment. So 5G plays well with Wi-Fi and can bring that technology to give you the whole coverage that you need for your facilities and in your environment.
Yeah, no, that's a great segue. And one example I want to just quickly highlight here is a deployment in Korea for CJ Logistics, where they equipped a new warehouse with 5G only. And here it comes into play what Jose said. it's very hard to really cover a warehouse with Wi-Fi only. And we've seen the efficiency of 5G. We had 22 of these radio dot antennas that replaced the planned 300 Wi-Fi access points, which gave them a significant capex saving. And through the seamless coverage and mobility aspect, CJ encountered a 20% increase of their productivity compared to the traditional warehouses by, for instance, reduced latency. Looking at the second trend, and that's of course, real-time asset tracking has been around in the industry for quite a while, but not also tracking assets, but also potentially tracking your people for, not for control, but for security purposes. And with that, it becomes very obvious on the people example that seamless connectivity and good coverage across every area somebody is moving is quite important, but also for the asset tracking and asset condition monitoring, a higher throughput, better planning, and also a higher operational equipment efficiency for the equipment can be achieved. And that indeed, for every moving asset, for every asset that is to be flexible, that requires quite some stable and reliable connectivity, which the private 5G networks within a warehouse can provide. I think I'm jumping right away to the third one because that's a bit yours, Jose. I think you're quite experienced on the robotics part.
Yeah, so definitely the one thing I wanted to touch is also the deployment of this technology is very similar to what you know from a traditional Wi-Fi installation. I talk about these dots and these different radios all connect via 6E and you utilize your normal networking. So there's nothing special or additional that you need to add to your facility. So within the robotics space, what we're seeing is a lot of the vendors that come out and bring in the robotics or their automation within their facilities require their own network to operate. And so they're operating solo. This technology can help bridge that gap again. And as we're seeing this grow more in the space, I think it's just critical from an IT perspective to have that continuity across the spectrum.
Perfect. That brings us to one example that's also can be found on public sources, where Cypher Robotics has built a automated AMR with a drone on top for cycle counting, which is a great combination of a drone, AMR, and 5G technology to have instant results and higher precision from inventory cycle count operations. At the same time, enabling a drone that usually has very limited flight time to work for hours and hours, being powered by the AMR underneath. Let's jump to the next trend, and that's, of course, we touched upon it, predictive maintenance, which requires asset condition monitoring and the right data sets for training the intelligence, the AI, or machine learning algorithms to predict breakdown or failure of equipment, and therefore sort of increasing the OEE again and supporting a constant material flow in terms of quality and precision. And I think that's what I hear from many of our customers. That's what is not really in place today.
Yeah, I would like to add to that, John. Another real life customer refreshed their Wi-Fi network within their facility, took down some coverage that they had outside, and they forgot about the maintenance teams. that have to get on the roof and have to work on HVAC, that now real-time video that they need to, if they're working on inside of a space. So their maintenance team all of a sudden didn't have any coverage. So the 5G technology, bringing that out to the field and allowing the maintenance team, which is sometimes not thought about, to do their job. And so this is critical to not only that, but to also safety. And I think we'll talk about that a little bit later on.
Excellent. I added another example here where Ericsson, Hitachi, US, and another partner, AWS in that case, did some trials with video analytics that could be used in a flexible way for inspection, etc. And we had quite some impressive results when it came to improvement of quality control in terms of 24 assembly components versus 1 by 1. And that is the technology that I think we already see in warehouses, but not being installed in a real flexible way, right? And with 5G, you can basically move these inspections around the warehouse wherever they are needed and adapting to your changed warehouse layout. I'm jumping a little ahead here. I already mentioned the different characteristics of 5G and Wi-Fi. Why is 5G in some respects better? It can send with higher power. It has a little bit better propagation with regards to metallic structures, etc., which brings us to less radios need to be deployed in a warehouse, and radios need to be cabled, right? So you have less cable runs, same as Wi-Fi access points, and you really get an advantage of 3 to 5 times indoors and more than 10 times on the outdoor space. So that gives you a competitive price advantage across the life cycle and installation of the solution. Furthermore, we've been talking about, and Jose has mentioned the scanner example, right? The freezing scanner or handheld for a worker. Wi-Fi does not have this mobility built in. There are niche solutions that solve it very well, but they're niche solutions still. While in cellular technology, especially 5G, that has been built for larger cells and more efficient cell handover. So there is a central orchestration and no stickiness. Especially with the Ericsson radio dot system, you can enlarge the cells significantly, removing every sort of handover.
And that's critical because in the traditional Wi-Fi where you have the sticky client, I mean, especially in large warehousing environments where you have your fork terminals, your pallet jacks, people that are moving at high rates of speed, there is potential to either be a sticky client, lose connectivity, and then you're gonna have to restart a session, which causes delay time, and that's some issues that, as far as from an ROI on this system, you would see your performance enhanced and less issue within the IT environment.
Exactly. So I think 5G is addressing all the 4 trends that or supporting all the 4 trends that we've been describing by its inbuilt quality of service capabilities, its coverage capabilities, and its security capabilities. So one network that can run a multitude of different applications. From an Ericsson perspective, of course, we're building the nationwide networks, and we can use that technology also to towards enterprises and warehouses in order to cover every geography and every type of topology within that space. And with that, I think maybe Jose, if you want to take the summary, start the summary part. I think we showed how 5G or private 5G especially addresses the challenges, and you're the person that brings it to life.
Yeah, so this technology is exciting for us because in these environments, in these challenging environments, within the warehousing, within logistics, we see there is the gap between not only bringing in, if you have a fleet of vehicles that are delivering, to bringing inventory into a facility, to tracking that out. There are gaps, there's holes, there's spaces within within technology, the current technology, where 5G can really capture and cover those areas so that you have a seamless transition. And once again, I think at the end of the day, it's about getting product out as quick as possible to the consumer. So with that being said, 5G is a very powerful tool that I see making great enhancements within our warehouse environments, where not only you have your traditional, you have some still people doing it, paper trail, but this ties a lot of those technologies together as a hybrid approach to enhance your performance and what you need to do within your business.
Excellent. And with that, I think we're done with what we wanted to present, and we can move over to back to James.
Lovely, guys. Thank you so much. That's terrific stuff. So we have 15 minutes or so. A reminder, we're here to answer questions. We have got an amazing question which has come in from Alexander. I will ask that, but please ask the questions. Jan and Jose are here to answer them. So you should take advantage of that. But let's start, guys, with this question from Alexander Lindemann, and it says it all, I think. I mean, that is a really good question. I might just read it for you. I work as a wireless LAN specialist in Norway with experience in design and implementation. I have no hands-on experience with private 5G. When speaking with senior people in the industry, I get the impression that private 5G is still perceived as somewhat immature and risky. And as far as I know, it hasn't fully reached mainstream adoption yet. Wi-Fi still seems to be the preferred option in most cases. From what I've heard about larger private 5G deployments, they tend to become expensive and complex. So from your perspective, Jan, Jose, and he says, unless the technology has recently gained significant momentum, and has it? I'd suggest it has got some momentum, but this is for you to answer. What are the reasons that so many major players still prefer other technologies if they do? What are the current challenges? So there's a lot in there. So Jan, Jose, immature, risky, hasn't got not mainstream adoption, is expensive, it's complex. Just
Yeah.
give your sense on that. Respond to that and how you would make the case, I guess, for private 5G. I mean, you effectively have, but to
Yeah.
answer that specific question.
Maybe I start with just one sentence, and then I'll leave it to Jose, or with one thought. Private 5G has a bit of a journey traveled already, and it has been mainly used for trials, POCs, etc., in the past couple of years. But now we really see 5G coming into critical production processes and critical operations. And Ericsson and also other vendors, we have put a lot of work in making it more IT friendly, making it easier to life cycle and easier to manage. And I think the references that we have from really industries bringing it into as a critical element into their production is sort of proof that it's making its way into being a standard technology. It's not perceived like that everywhere. I know that, but that's why we are conducting these sort of events and showing that we can be sort of a to be legacy thing.
Exactly right. And I think, as anything else, change sometimes brings uncertainty within the industry. What we're seeing here is, and the perception is, it's not one or the other. This 5G technology, once again, will play well with traditional. This is I see more as a hybrid solution. Are there opportunities that you can do in smaller cases that you can put in just the 5G technology? Of course, we're looking at this as augmenting, implement, and assisting existing networks. The cost piece of this would probably speak more to potentially the end user, the handheld, getting things that have the ability to be able to operate in that environment. As a whole, that as businesses change now, we're looking tracking from the very beginning, basically from the field to the table, and moving products that way. This technology helps bridge those gaps that you're looking at in an exterior. So is it it's not a newer technology. It's something that's being brought into mainstream now that has some stability, that as warehouse environments are changing, bringing in this automation into their everyday business. Do you need that ability to connect and have that stability from a network per side of the house? So that's how I see it from our side. I see it in the environment of a lot of ISPs now, and depending where you're at in the world, are overloaded, don't have the ability to maybe provide circuits to your facilities, to greenfield or new facilities. So being able to use this technology to even to light up and bring up a new facility quickly before you bring in a circuit is an advantage as well. So I think it's a technology that is we're really making headway in the industry, and has its I think it will play nice with what's there, and then assist and enhance your experience as far as a vendor.
And there's a question here about the pricing, which it seems to be, a bit of a misconception, perhaps. I don't know, but that 5G, device for device, access point for access point type thing is more expensive. But I mean, you had a stat in the presentation around a 15% capex saving. That's presumably when you go to some scale. Just talk around the price difference and this kind of. There's a question here from Ken who asks, 5G devices are still more expensive than Wi-Fi devices. What is the trend? I mean, I write quite a lot about this market, and there are certainly cases where you're saving money by putting in more expensive but many fewer, 5G access points versus Wi-Fi access points. Is that the story? Just talk around that if you can.
Yeah, I think one aspect here is the question is around 5G devices and their price comparison to Wi-Fi devices, and that's of course that's the truth. 5G devices or modules are still more expensive than the common Wi-Fi devices. If we're talking like real industrial Wi-Fi equipment, then this is becoming a little less, but still it's more on the price-wise on the high side. But we see over the last 12 to 18 months a significant decrease in the module prices. That's number one. And secondly, we now see also more and more RedCap equipped, reduced capability equipped devices coming up, which will enable devices that are not so demanding in terms of throughput, etc., and will enable you to connect them to the network at a lower price point. Maybe not always the same as Wi-Fi on the low end. That's true, but we see a significant decrease in the prices of the 5G enabled devices.
Yeah, and I touched to the mobility side of the house, where the majority of the units now, handheld scanners, are coming equipped to be able to have that capability. So like as John said, the cost price is a little higher, but we'll see that coming down, and we're seeing that the devices are now in a position or prepared to accept the technology to operate over 5G. So you're not, if you're buying the end of life and you're buying new units, they're going to come ready to be able to use this technology. So you'll see the price point go down significantly in the future.
And Jose, Ken, and apologies, I did misread that question, but Jose, Ken's asking about consumer premise equipment, scanners, 5G versus Wi-Fi. I mean, because a lot of the 5G use cases are different, aren't they? And they are sometimes different kind of devices to start with. But from a scanner point of view, is RedCap, does RedCap and eRedCap bring it in line eventually with the cost of Wi-Fi?
So if you look at overall the savings across the infrastructure, let's say, as far as the 1 unit to potentially a 5 Wi-Fi unit, you'll see the cost savings there. On the handheld side of the house, there will be a little higher cost price. But I think if you look at it as a whole project, from a CapEx project or even from a local project, you'll see that savings there. It'll be very close as far as the price point. From a project perspective, if you're looking at just switching out handhelds, as I said earlier, that as you see the newer devices that are coming out are coming prepared for that. They are a little bit more expensive, but as this technology becomes more utilized within the industry, you'll see that margin drop.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got a bunch of questions, but there are some really good questions here, and we should ask them of you both. So there's a couple of questions from Raymond here who talks about best effort versus deterministic, and I guess that, in my mind at least, that's the difference between Wi-Fi and private 5G. Is that right? And there's a second. It's rather a statement than a question, but it's about scratching the surface of private 5G. I mean, there is a way to go with this. It is a developing technology, right?
It is definitely. So we're now talking about the next chapter of 5G Advanced, I think it's commonly called. And if you remember the journey that 4G traveled from being the first really initial data cellular technology and to where LTE in the end came, that's the journey that 5G is on. And 5G has the concept of ultra reliable latency or ultra reliable low latency, and that's technology features that in the end allow you to prioritize devices that need this highly deterministic communication. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah.
To point, yes, once that if you have that deterministic communication in place, and we have it to a large extent already today, then of course you're able to add a huge number of applications and use cases that rely on deterministic transmission or sort of reliable transmission, like industrial safety, etc.
So can I ask, there's a question here which I think refers to something you said in the presentation around the robotics vendors wishing to bring their own networks into play.
Yes.
I mean, Jose, maybe you can just address that and how that's kind of.
So typically and I'll throw out some larger scale robotic or automated systems, the Symbotics of the world, Vitrons, Canat, Dematic. These are all logistical type automations that are being brought in for receiving and shipping processes within facilities. So those are large scale automation systems that are taking up 300, 400,000 square foot of real estate. So those, in order for the robotic systems to work internally to them, they require a hefty network, which means you have hundreds and hundreds of access points that are within these systems. It doesn't make a lot of sense to put all of that data and all of that functionality on your existing working network within a warehouse. So you have separate networks. So each one of them are coming basically with their own network. How do you cross that over? How do you become, if you're the owner of the business and you have this separate network within your facility, sooner or later you'll take responsibility, ownership of that business. So how do you transition from, if the vendor is saying we want to go one way and you have a traditional network in your own facility, is how do you bridge that gap? How do you become, sooner or later your IT team will be responsible for all of that? So that's where we're seeing the challenge within the industry, that you have basically networks within networks, and these are wireless networks we're talking about, along with wired. So you have the challenge of not only interference, co-channel interference, issues that can potentially affect your normal business, everyday logistics business. So that's what I was leaning to, that you have that, and within the 5G technology, there's an opportunity to have less of that, and the interference and the challenge that you would see currently now with these businesses.
Yeah, got you. Thank you, Jose. There's a couple of other questions, and then perhaps we'll wrap it up. But I don't know which order to take them in. One's more kind of general, but I mean, the first one is around which sectors are leading this. You know, where is the early adoption? And I guess I'd say, is warehousing. I mean, traditionally it's ports and factories and this kind of thing. I would suggest,
Yep.
utilities as well on a larger scale, but it's certainly in these kind of indoor kind of and campus-based networks. Just what's your sense of it, and how does the warehousing sector compare? Because it seems at once, there is an opportunity for robotics and automation and all these kind of things, as you've discussed. At the same time, I don't know, but my sense is there's less legacy than less complexity than a factory, production line type facility. Is that true? Does that make this an easier industry in ways to just because it's more straightforward, the proposition? I don't know.
Okay,
Jose, maybe
Go
you
ahead.
perhaps give a view on that, just seeing as you're in that, specifically in that sector.
So just to clarify, the question is, you think it's, are we, the
Well,
question is,
yeah, just I mean, sorry, yeah. So the questions around which sectors are kind of the early adopters for this, and then my follow-up question is around warehousing versus kind of more other sectors like factory manufacturing and ports and some of these kind of industries, which are, and if there's less complexity somehow.
what I'm seeing is in the warehouse environment is the more of the hybrid approach. This is 5G is coming in and is filling in where traditional Wi-Fi cannot, or is having some difficulties in, to make changes. I think we touched earlier on, even dead spots. What we're seeing is in large warehousing environments, outside in the yard and the dock, as they call it. In the past, to locate a trailer would take a huge amount of time to have somebody with a pen and pencil go to find truck X. Now with this technology outside and of course some software behind it, we're being able to do real-time location of where a trailer is sitting at, because you're talking hundreds and hundreds of trailers, and you have, once again, we're talking to expediting product and getting it to the store so they can get the product on the shelf. Having this technology out in the field, being able to real-time locate where a truck is at, where a trailer is at, where your inventory is at, at these ports, at these container environments where you have large scale utilities that have yards and yards of pipe, and that's where I'm seeing it at. That gap before was somebody walking out and trying to count the product. Being able to do this with using 5G, because traditional Wi-Fi in that environment outside is not the strongest, without a high cost associated around it. But that means trenching, bringing out cable, bringing out power. So 5G covers that area a lot better, and provides that gap that was there before. So, and once again, the ROI is being able to real time know where it's at and getting your inventory to where it needs to be in a timely fashion.
Yeah.
maybe I can quickly add to that. James, you mentioned other verticals like ports and mines, etc. These are sometimes environments where there is almost no alternative to a cellular network. and depending on the application, it needs to be 5G, right? For factories and warehouses, um, it's more of a process of adoption, but also they now are facing other challenges, and that is this flexibility thing, the agility thing, and I hope you agree. I think the warehousing space has not been a massive place for introducing robotics 10, 15 years ago. That is a development that came in over the last, let's say, 10, 12 years, yeah. I think. And that paired with the need for flexibility now makes warehouses a great place for 5G to play its strengths.
And one other thing is to add to that real quick is that the 5G technology also provides another tier of security and backup for these large scale warehouse environments. Even where you have traditional circuitry that comes in, this plays well in giving you that the second, third backup to your network.
Yeah. Okay, look, guys, I think we call it there. We're running a little bit over, but that's good. Really great. Thank you so much for the questions, everybody. They were really insightful and on the point. But yeah, I want to take the opportunity to thank Jose and Jan for their time, their patience with me. Yeah, so thanks you both for joining us and taking us through that. And there's a lot to digest. And thank you everybody for tuning in. I guess we will see you after Christmas. So in the meantime, happy holidays. Jan, Jose, thank you so much. We'll catch you again.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much. Take care.
Thank you, guys in the audience.
Take care.